Hey everybody, welcome back to section 8, standard 8, of U.S. history. We're looking at 8b in particular, and we're talking about the role that President James Polk had in fulfilling our manifest destiny, which is what we covered and introduced in the previous video. So let's start by taking a look at this image. You see James Polk on the left-hand side of the screen, President Polk. He is a strong believer in manifest destiny, helping take the United States from the East Coast all the way over to the West Coast. You can take a look at this image that you see on the right-hand side of the screen. It's very similar to the image we saw in the previous video, except for one major difference. You notice the angel in the middle? Remember how the angel represents God's will that we will go from the East Coast over to the West Coast? Take a closer look at the angel. What's she holding in this image? It looks like she's holding a gun in this one. And this image indicates that the acquisition of territory from the East Coast to the West Coast through God's will is going to come by gunpoint, could get a little violent if necessary. This image is showing you how important it is and how serious James Polk was in helping the United States fulfill its manifest destiny. It could get violent if it needs to. So President James Polk, he is a strong supporter of manifest destiny, and he's going to initiate whatever methods and manners it takes to help the United States go from East Coast all the way over to the West Coast in order for the United States to protect itself, to grow, get strong. That's why we're doing all this in the first place. Excuse me. So let's start with the first major acquisition that James Polk has in his presidency for manifest destiny. And it's all about the issue of the Oregon Territory, all the way in the upper northwest corner of what is today the United States. Now, England, Great Britain, they at the time had control of a lot of this land. Remember, we had fought them back in the American Revolution. We fought them again in the War of 1812. They still haven't quite left us alone, if you will. They're still in the neighborhood of, over here on our continent, and they're still in our way, so to speak. And so they have this land. We want it. We believe it's ours. Some of our settlers have been moving out there, and we think we have more of a claim to it than they do, since they're way across, the Atlantic Ocean back on their island. And so basically, we kind of put down a little ultimatum to them. You're going to give us this land, this Oregon, up here at this latitude line of 5440 degrees, or we're going to be fighting. You see James Polk in the middle? We're going to be fighting if you don't do that. We want this land from you. We believe it's ours. We need this to fulfill our manifest destiny. In England, we've already beat you once. We beat you twice in the War of 1812. We don't want to have to beat you again. So we need you to give us this land. All right. And so we are threatening armed conflict over this Oregon Territory in order to fulfill manifest destiny. And that's all about this latitude line, 5440. We want that line, or else we're fighting. 5440 or fight is all about the slogan of give us Oregon Territory. Now, it doesn't come to violence. It doesn't come to armed conflict. Again, we end up compromising. We have a lot of compromises going on during this time because there's a lot of controversial issues. We end up getting the line, this dotted line going across right here, which is today the northern border of the United States. All the land below we get, and Britain, England, keeps the land above, which is today part of Canada. So the compromise is we will take all this land below, which is today the states of Oregon and Washington state, and England will keep the land above, which is part of Canada today. So the whole issue of Oregon, annexing Oregon, 5440 or fight, was part of James Polk fulfilling manifest destiny. All right, and that was a major component of his. He didn't want to fight. He's willing to if necessary, but we agreed to compromise. We negotiated with England, Great Britain. We avoid armed conflict, and we get what we want in order to help us go from the East Coast to the West Coast. So James Polk, part of his role in fulfilling manifest destiny was the acquisition, the annexation, if you will, of Oregon Territory. Now, let's head back down south. Remember this Missouri Compromise line? Here's the bottom border of Missouri. This line stretched all the way across. Remember, the line was any state that comes in above that line will be free. Any state that comes in below that line will be slave. Well, we're starting to force that issue a little bit. All right, so during this time, what's happening is you see people fulfilling manifest destiny, Americans, they're moving out west. And a lot of them moved to what's today part of Texas. Well, it wasn't part of Texas back then, it was part of Mexico. So you end up with American citizens moving out into Mexico at the time. They establish their cities, their towns. They bring their culture with them. They also bring their American ideas, including the American idea of independence and revolution, with them. And after a short amount of time, they decide, hey, we don't want to be part of Mexico anymore. Mexico, we declare our independence from you. Those of us who moved out here, we're declaring our independence from you. We're going to fight to take our independence from you. We want to be the Republic of Texas and no longer want to be a part of your country. Well, Mexico doesn't like that. Mexico fights. They go into war with these citizens to fight to keep them as part of Mexico. This is where you had the famous battle at the Alamo in San Antonio, Texas. Now, the Texans didn't win this particular battle. They got slaughtered in this little church fort called the Alamo. And so they lost that battle of the Alamo. They ended up winning their independence, though. After they won their independence from Mexico, you have the Republic of Texas. Texas, for a while, a short while, is its own independent nation. Not too long after that, though, they decide, you know what, we want to join the United States. United States, can we come in as a state? And the United States says, yes, you can. We would love to have you, Texas, come on in and join the United States. So again, part of James Polk's role in fulfilling Manifest Destiny is the annexation of Texas. And that starts when American settlers move into that region of Mexico. They don't want to be a part of Mexico, though. They fight for their independence and win. They're the Texas Republic, their own independent country for a while. We recognize them as their own country, but then a short time later, they come into the United States as their own country. That is the annexation of Texas, and that is how James Polk fulfills Manifest Destiny. Not too long after that, though, Mexico's not very happy about it, and we'll be going back to war with them. So we'll pick that up in the next video.